Edge. I think you're seeing me live. Yeah, there we go. You're seeing me live. It's a great Monday. It's an interesting day of sports because it looks like there's some sports that are taking the day or a couple of days off, but don't worry. We've got a lot of picks today, including some picks you're not going to expect. Now, let's take a look at the picks from last Friday and last week. Really interesting juxtaposition for me. I did terribly on these matchups and finishing positions. As you see, Shane Lowry, Gary Woodland didn't come in. I go 1 win, 4 losses, but we see the chat, right? Everybody's celebrating the Ludwig Aubert win at 25-1. So most of you made a good amount of money in spite of me being pretty bad last week in the matchups department. Overall, our weekend recap, 5-8, not very good. So we got to do a little bit better than that. And ladies and gentlemen, we're going to do that with you, Mark Buckholtz, Reed Phillips, Mark Hood, Mr. Big. We've got so many in the chat, but let's bring in the stars of the show. It's a lighter crowd of experts today. We've just got Buckets. We've just got Larry, but there's no just involved with you guys. This is a very good trio here. Larry, how you doing today?
I'm doing great, Sia. And I got to be honest, a couple weeks ago, I mentioned how excited I was for the new NBA All-Star format. I thought the tournament playing to a set score, there was going to be defense, there was going to be a little bit more intensity. Maybe there was a little bit more, but I had it on, and I was doing some work, and the game wasn't even taking my attention. You know what I mean? Like, you didn't have to watch. It was nice when Steph Curry hit a half-court shot, but I'm just so tired of these guys. You have open looks, but you've got to make it fancy because it's the All-Star game. You can't just shoot the ball, and that's why Barkley's team goes 0 for 11 to start the game, because every shot had to be a fancy shot. So the final game was 41-25. It looks like you don't even know what I'm talking about, which is not surprising because a lot of people missed this entire event, and you didn't miss much. And honestly, I would open it up to the chat. What can we do to make this weekend interesting again?
Yeah, that's interesting. Buckets, I imagine I wasn't the only one. And normally I take a peek at the All-Star game, but I imagine both you and I were not watching the All-Star game. I'll be honest. I was watching the Saturday Night Live special because even though I don't watch that show much over the last decade or so, I still found it very interesting. Buckets, I can't imagine you caught that, but you weren't watching the NBA All-Star game, were you?
Well, Sia, I consume a good bit of sports media across all platforms, and I didn't even see advertising for it. Not only did I not watch it, I didn't know what was going on. So I feel like there's definitely something wrong with that. But no, I did not see a peep of it.
Yeah, Mark Gillett says he was watching the SNL special as well. Okay, so we've got a poll already in the chat, but I do, and Larry's asking, hey, how can we fix the All-Star game? I want you to put that in the chat. But before we get to Bucket soccer picks, and again, we have a lot of picks to give out over the course of this show, some in tennis, some in hockey. Can I get maybe a top 2 or top 3 SNL characters all time from everybody? Or not characters, but actors, like the actors themselves, like your favorite SNL. If I had to go off the top of my head, I wasn't planning on saying this, and yes, we will get to picks in a second. It'd probably be Eddie Murphy, Martin Short, and I don't know, Dana Carvey or something, maybe Phil Hartman. Anyway, okay, I digress. Let's get to some sports. Mark Buckholtz, sorry, I'm missing some of these comments as I spin through this show, but I know Mark Buckholtz had a nice comment. He said, I literally watched the NBA All-Star Weekend related for the first time in a while. It's so uninteresting to me anymore. I will say this, the slam dunk contest was actually pretty impressive. The last two, Mac McClung was very, very good. Chris Farley's a good one. But let's get to some picks. Buckets, we've got some soccer to get to. You have the floor.
We do have some soccer. I just want to say, and you kind of took it there, I know almost nothing like the pre-2010 era, but even I knew about the King, Chris Farley. Rest in peace. One of my all-time favorites, not only on SNL, but just people in general, just comedians. Truly just missed talent. But I'm not going to talk about that. Let me focus on soccer. That is why I'm here, guys. And we're going to start with the big matchup taking place in the Turkish Super League. I know this is going to be a tough one to pronounce, Sia, so I apologize in advance. We've got Kekir Rizespor taking on Galatasaray at noon. So this match is starting up soon, so make sure you get this wager in. I'm going with the same game parlay of both teams to score and over 2.5 goals. We've talked about Galatasaray a million times on the show. This is a team that when they're playing within domestic play, they should beat every team they play against by 3 or 4 goals with the attacking talent they have. Even their backups are good enough that they're finishing top 3 in the Super League. However, Rizespor at home is a bit of a problem. They're not going to win, but they're going to score here. Rizespor has scored at every home fixture since September 22nd of last year. This is a team that, again, doesn't win, but they always perform and get a goal at home. Then for our second bet, we go to a matchup that we've probably heard of. Genoa taking on Venezia here in Serie A, so going to a top 4 league. And again, I'm sorry, guys, we got to go with both teams to score, especially considering it's plus 110, and especially considering Venezia have to go for goals here. If you look at the recent history of this relegation-bound team, these are some of their recent scores in the last 10 fixtures. 2-2 draw, 2-2 draw, 1-1 draw, 1-1 draw, 1-1 draw. A little bit of a theme here because this is a team that is so desperate for points, and they know defensively they're not good enough to stop anyone from scoring. They're having to get goals themselves here, Sia. This shouldn't be plus 110, and that's the reason I'm taking this bet.
All right. A couple of names that I'm probably going to have trouble pronouncing, but it's going to be a troubling show for me. Can I tell you, Buckets? Because we have some sports line picks, tennis related, a lot of tennis related stuff. And like, I don't know, you want me to, Bucks, you want me to give it a shot right now? Should I just give out the sports line?
Just go for it. Do your best, buddy. I believe.
Rip the Band-Aid off. All right, let's go to the Rio Open. These are plays from Jose Honorado, by the way, from SportsLine, who is a very talented tennis capper. We've got Jack Draper in the Doha Open over Alexei Popyrin. All right, so that's 2-0. Jack Draper 2-0 over Alexei Popyrin. Then we go to the Rio Open, and we've got Nicholas Jarry. I know I'm pronouncing that right. 2-0 plus 140 over Cerundolo. Okay. And then we've got Thiago Monteiro minus 105 over Acosta. Thiago Monteiro over Acosta. That's minus 105. Okay. Now we're going to a little bit more conventional. We're going to college basketball for some sports line picks. This one courtesy of Bruce Marshall. Stephen F. Austin minus 3.5 at minus 103. We're taking Stephen F. Austin minus 3.5. And then in hockey, we've got Canada and Finland under 6.5 at minus 134. That's from Matt Severance. A lot of these tennis and hockey plays actually start this afternoon. So if you want to get these picks in, get them in now. Lee Brown says he is also on Stephen F. Austin, although he said it in a slightly different way. If you like any of these bets, I do want to mention to you, we've got an Any Sport No Sweat token courtesy of BetMGM. You're obviously going to want to take advantage of this. BetMGM, again, now has an Any Sport No Sweat token. Players will receive a no sweat token to apply to any bet on any sport and will receive bonus bets if that bet loses. Here's how it works. Log into BetMGM's Sportsbook app to receive a no sweat token. To use the token, add a bet on any sports event to your bet slip and activate the token. If your bet loses, you'll receive bonus bets back to your account. Any sport is an appropriate thing to say today because we've got, what did I just give out? Tennis picks. We gave out hockey picks, and they're not even NHL picks. We got soccer picks, and we've got college basketball picks coming up. One from me and one from Larry. It's coming up after this message from our partners.
From sweet to elite to the Final Four.
A couple comments in the chat. Taylor DeHart says, any TGL bets, honestly, pretty fun thing to bet. I don't disagree. I actually think TGL is a fun watch, Taylor. I haven't made any TGL bets yet, and maybe I'll dive into it. I'm just, I'm so busy doing the regular PGA Tour events that I just haven't dug deep. But I know there's a lot of TGL. Taylor, you can correct me if I'm wrong. I think there's like a triple header maybe today and one event tomorrow, or maybe I'm getting it confused. Maybe it's Tuesday to Wednesday. That's something I'll look into. And if I think I have an edge, or if I think I've caught something, I'll put it in the SportsLine Discord or give it out on this show tomorrow. Dano, Larry, this question is for you, or this comment is for you. Dano says he's been spending more time in the SportsLine Discord for content, and he's been spending more time there than any other social platform. That's what I think he's trying to say. Tell me how the SportsLine Discord is going, Larry.
Yeah, there's a lot of great stuff in there, starting with Jose's daily tennis picks, which have been incredible. The SportsLine Phil Bobbitt with his NASCAR picks, Jake Fettner with college baseball picks, and of course, all the major sports. expert chats like Prop Stars, Prop Bet Guy, Mike McClure, yourself, Sia, and others. So you got to get in there because there's so much more going on in there than just what you see on the site. And probably the number one benefit is Tom Casale is there literally day and night, giving his take on any question that you have on college basketball.
That's huge. I mean, you just can't put like a price or a value on that. That is absolutely so huge. Buckets has been in there. I've been in there. I mean, I gave out the Ludwig. By the way, if you hit Ludwig Aubert, make me feel better because my matchups weren't very good, as you saw from the recap screen. Put in I cashed with Studvig in the chat. I cashed with Studvig, of course, Studvig Aubert. I want to know who actually cashed with that. And I know a lot of people did because, Larry, I put it in the SportsLine Discord. And I put it out on this show, Early Edge. It didn't make the recap screen because they're not really your typical official plays as far as the recap screen is concerned, but they were official plays. As you know, I put them on Twitter, on this show, and in the SportsLine Discord. So hopefully you hit that. Gipper's Pick says we killed in UFC Saturday. Check out the Discord. Yeah, the UFC Discord. Again, these are all different channels per sport. So whatever sport you're into, whatever sport you want to chat about, you get in the SportsLine Discord and you chat about it. I cashed with Studvig, says Mark Hood. Hit the like button while you're at it. For him, you know I cash Sia, says Joe Neuenfeld. All right, let's try to cash in back-to-back Mondays with college basketball. You know I don't put out a lot of college basketball picks, but I'm starting to warm up to it. We had an easy cash last Monday. I'm going to take a road team here. Arizona, I'm taking the points, plus 1.5. Of course, you could take the money line, but this could be a close game. Baylor at home. Baylor's very good at home. I mean, they haven't beaten a ton of tough teams, but they've beaten some teams. Kansas, a couple of others. What was it? West Virginia. I think they won that one at home in overtime. But either way, I think Arizona is actually the better team here. And the one thing about Baylor, I like them going into the season. I thought it was a good young team, good young talent. They had some transfers. Norchad Omier, of course. They had the Jeremy Roach from Duke. But they've sustained a lot of injuries. They've got a 7-man rotation. It's their third game in 7 days. Now, it's also the third game in 7 days for Arizona, and they don't have much of a rotation either. I think they really go 8 deep. But I do think they're the better team, and I do think Arizona's had a couple of tough losses lately, mostly because their three-point shooting has been pretty poor. I expect that to regress to the mean, and I just think they're the better team. Again, I think they're going to have the rebounding edge. In transition, I think they're going to have the edge there, and I just think they're going to get more easy baskets, and I think the wrong team is favored because Baylor has that reputation at home. I think that reputation gets squashed tonight. Give me Arizona plus 1.5. Larry, that's my college basketball play. What's yours?
I am going to Mississippi Valley State and, of course, trying to fade them yet again. They actually covered over the weekend. This is the worst team in college basketball. If you go to KenPom, they are number 364 in offense and defensive efficiency, which I'm not sure I've ever seen before. That's how bad they are. And you look at the gap between them and the next worst team, it's very sizable. Well, they're coming off a cover. They played well at home on Saturday and only lost by 12 to Alabama A&M. They were getting 13. They covered the game, and if you read some of the write-ups, they were very excited that they outscored the opponent in the second half. They put a ton of effort. This team doesn't quit. They're terrible. They can't shoot the ball, 27% from beyond the arc, but they played a good second half, and I don't think coming back 2 days later, they're going to have a lot for Alabama State, which is playing really good ball lately. They've actually won 3 of 4 and taken out the top 2 teams in the SWAC in that span. The first meeting was 84-55 Alabama State. The Delta Devils shot 2 of 16 from beyond the arc, so even worse than their normal average. But even if they shoot a little bit better at home, I see Alabama State coming away with a nice big win.
All right, Alabama State minus 17.5. I've got Arizona plus 1.5. I'm looking in the chat to see if there's other picks. I know Big Cheesy had Howard first half, minus 6.5. Big Cheesy, very sharp. That's an interesting look. I don't really have an opinion on that one. Gipper's picks, talking about his UFC plays, 5-2, profit of 3.5 units. I cashed with Studvig, plus 2,200, says Brad Merrill. Chris Kish at plus 2,700, which means he probably used the BetMGM boost. So don't forget about those boosts. Obviously, BetMGM doesn't own all the boosts. You can get them at a lot of sports books, but BetMGM makes them so readily available so that you can see them and apply them as opposed to like opting in, for example. It's just a lot easier to see. So make sure you take advantage of those. Buckets, real quick, I know before the show, we were chatting about soccer and we were chatting about today's slate versus like tomorrow's slate and later in the week. Is there something that soccer fans can look forward to post Monday?
Oh, absolutely. Starting tomorrow, we have the second leg of the knockout stage of Champions League, where we will have people on the early edge. I will be on CBS HQ later this afternoon giving out plays. Martin and I will be in the Discord. We'll have article plays. We'll have site plays. We cannot give you enough Champions League content, but we are going to do our best to make that work out for everyone. Sia.
All right. Let's see. Big Cheesy, Southeast Louisiana plus 7.5. Larry, go ahead.
I feel bad because earlier I was running down all the great experts who have been in the Discord having live chats, and Buckets is literally staring me in the face. And I forgot to mention that he and Martin Green have done some great live chats for Champions League. And I am sure they will be active in the Discord tomorrow before these matches. It's not an official expert chat, but they're always available, chiming in with picks and analysis.
And I just want to say it is so tough doing those with Martin, because I'll give a take and feel good about it. And then Martin writes this eloquent, beautiful paragraph with all these massive words and very British sounding words. People are just like, all right, Martin, like, done. I'll do whatever you say. It's wonderful, though.
Chris Kish confirming what you said, Buckets. He says, tomorrow's soccer slate will be epic, massively important day, teams going all out. We always want that, to have the security of knowing teams are actually going all out, which, Buckets has told us many times that's not always the case, which is I feel like kind of a new concept for those that are not soccer bettors. But then again, Larry, we see that in the NBA all the time. We just don't know it. We just don't know when the guys are not going to be trying and when they are going to be trying sometimes.
I'm with you 100%.
Yeah.
100%.
All right. Buckets, before we get to the recap screen, was there any soccer questions you needed to address?
There's a really big matchup in La Liga today between Barcelona and Rayo, and I know that there's a lot of value to bet on Barcelona, because if they win this game, they go from third on the table to first. But them to score 3 goals in this game is minus 165, and Rayo's a decent defensive side. This would be a live bet matchup for me, but I do expect goals in that one.
All right, nice comment from KC3 that I'd like to read on a day like this. I just want to show gratitude for all you guys that you do for this show. I get it. You're getting paid for it, but there's also a passion there, which we can all see and appreciate. That is a very meaningful message, because if there's no passion behind our words, A, we're not going to care, and B, you're going to notice that we don't care. And I think you see it from Buckets, from Larry, and from everybody on this team, that it's really not about, honestly, and Buckets, you say this all the time, it's really not about winning money for us. It's about winning money for you and just getting W's for you, because that is like truly, it's not about the dollars and cents for me personally. That really helps, but getting the W's for the people that are listening and having them feel like we're actually delivering on something we care about is super, super important. So KC3, really appreciate that comment. All right. I think we can get to the Kansas State thoughts. Larry, do you have any thoughts on Kansas State? That's not a game I really looked at, but Aaron Bailey has that question.
Wow, that's exactly the game I wanted to touch on. So I'm glad you mentioned it. They had a great 6-game winning streak. They got blitzed at BYU, got down 40-22 at halftime. I do think it's a nice bounce back spot against Utah, getting 2.5 or better. Definitely leaning Kansas State. I haven't played it yet. The only game I've played is the one that I gave out. Another spot is Duke, at Virginia tonight, laying a big number. Virginia's on a nice little 3-game winning streak, but if you look at it, whenever they've had to play top tier competition, they've gotten absolutely smoked. So for me, that's going to be Duke or pass.
I was thinking the same thing. By the way, John, good comment here. Brutal sports schedule today. We deserve better. I mean, it's funny, though. Let's see what happens with tomorrow's recap screen in terms of how we did. We still managed to have a lot of bets here, none of which are forced. We're really just including bets that maybe we wouldn't normally include on the early edge, stuff you would see on SportsLine with the tennis bets and things of that nature. Big Cheesy says, I love the over 132.5 in Duke, Virginia. That's interesting, Larry, because we know Virginia, even without Bennett, they slow it down, but 132.5 isn't a super high number. Any thoughts there?
Yeah, it's pretty low total. McNeely's been shooting the lights out. Duke, of course, is just electric all over the floor. Definitely would lean over as well.
Yeah, it would be a no play for me. I do tend to agree with Larry that eventually I think UVA is going to be super motivated for this game. Like it feels like kind of a Super Bowl for them. But I just think they're so undermanned that I think eventually we start to see the 10-point lead, the 12-point lead, the 16-point lead. But I don't have full confidence that they're going to cover. I think it could come down to like a garbage time shot at the end that ends up covering or not covering for Duke in this game. All right, Sia, do you like any early outrights for the Mexico Open? Okay, that's a good question. The answer is yes, but I'm not really willing to give them out right now. When I was doing my initial research last night, I need you to know for the Mexico Open that there's not a lot of big-time players here. There's some players that are short odds, like the Akshay Batias and the Rasmus Højgaards that are, 20, 25, 28 to 1. Harry Hall is also 28 to 1. All good players. But I think this tournament, with such a lack of talent at the top, really caters to some long shots. So I actually put out a tweet about an hour ago about, I put out a tweet every Monday morning about outrights that people are considering. But I'm going to have an outright card that I think, last week was only 3 outrights. This week, I might have 6 or 7, but it's going to be all long shots. It's going to be like sprinkle plays that are in the 40 to 120 to 1 range. So look out for that. And oh, by the way, those of you that are asking about the early wedge, I believe that I can comfortably say that the first early wedge show, and I say first early wedge show because we're going to have multiple per week. I'll let you in on that little secret. The first early wedge show is next Monday, the 24th, and we'll be covering it for the balance of the year. We've got a lot of content coming your way that you're going to be really pleasantly surprised about. So Ray Brown, what day is the early wedge? It starts all of it in boldface. The all of it part is next Monday. That'll be our first show. So please take a look at that. All right, let's take a look at our recap screen before we get out of here. Sorry if that was me dancing around your outright question. I do have outrights I'm considering. Again, I just want to narrow down the field for me before I give any out. Arizona plus 1.5. That's my play tonight. Oh boy, Buckets, help me out here.
Rizespor taking on Galatasaray. Both teams to score in over 2.5 goals. And Genoa taking on Venezia. Both teams to score. See ya.
I probably could have done that, but you sounded great doing it. Alabama State minus 17.5. That is Larry's pick. And then we've got a bunch of SportsLine picks from Jose Honorado from our SportsLine. You can find him in Discord, but obviously on sportsline.com. He's got Draper 2-0 plus 120 over Popperin. And then in the Rio Open, he's got Nicholas Jarry 2-0 plus 140 over Cerundolo. And then Thiago Montero minus 105 over Acosta. All right, and then in college basketball, we got Stephen F. Austin minus 3.5 at minus 103 from Bruce Marshall. And hockey, Canada, Finland under 6.5 at minus 134 from Matt Severance. All right, we had a lot of SNL tweets that I couldn't even get to. Larry, do you have a favorite SNL actor before we get everybody out of here?
There's so many. Norm Macdonald, an all-time great in my mind.
All right, we got Chris Farley, we got Norm Macdonald, and I'll just go with Eddie Murphy if I had to pick one. All right. So many good ones, especially from back in the day. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks for joining us on this Monday. Listen, it's a slate where you probably thought, oh, they're probably only going to have a couple picks and not much to say, but hopefully we pleasantly surprised you because we've got a lot going on. And obviously we've got golf going on later on in the week, more soccer like Buckets talked about, more college basketball, maybe some more futures talk, which we're going to consider as it relates to college basketball and in the NBA. And of course, you can catch us on CBS Sports Network today at 12. You'll see Buckets there. You'll see Larry. You'll see Tom Casale. Don't forget to check us out there at 12 o'clock. That goes 60 minutes. Thanks for joining us today. Jeff Hatley, thanks for saying great show. We'll see you next time. On behalf of Larry Hartstein, on behalf of Buckets, on behalf of all of you, on behalf of Ben on the 1s and 2s and 3s and 4s, I'm the Counselor of Cash. This is the Early Edge, and we rest our case.